Podcast networks are a great way to grow your show and to reach a bigger audience. Today, we're talking with the co-founder of the Broadway Podcast Network, and Alan goes deep into why he created it, how it's beneficial for the members, and how it even helps him as a thought leader in this space. We also go into AI and the number one thing that you need to add to every single prompt to ensure that you are using it critically and using it efficiently. All right, let's go ahead and welcome Ellen to the podcast. Welcome to Podcasting Unlocked, the show for purpose-driven podcasters. I'm Alesia Galati, founder of Galati Media, and I'm here to share actionable strategies to help you amplify your message and grow your audience. Hello, Alan. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. If you could start by telling everyone who you are, what you do, and a bit about your podcast.
Hi, I'm Alan Seals. I host the theater podcast with Alan Seals. I interview Broadway celebs and creatives and stuffs. And that led me into founding the Broadway Podcast Network, which is now 7 years old. We have almost 200 podcasts on the network. I'm still hosting my own solo. I've got two others that I co-host called Was It Chance, which is all about how people have embraced a seemingly hard failure and pivoted into turning it into creative success. And then another one about Jim Carrey's career called Carried Away.
Okay. Jim Carrey's a hot topic right now. Not even the topic of the podcast today, but I have to know your thoughts. Was that Jim Carrey or was that not? I think not.
I don't think so. I don't know, but we started our podcast a few years ago and we've had some stops and starts because my other hosts are like their own creatives and they go out to own their own projects. So we haven't actually recorded since he's been back in the news as we're recording now.
Right.
But we got some stuff to talk about.
Yes, for sure. Oh, that'll be interesting. And I think there's a new Sonic coming out too. So that'll be good timing as well because it'll be interesting.
Oh, no, I know. My kids keep me updated on when the new Sonic movies are coming out. I get the news straight from the source.
Right. I know. My kids are always like, when is that coming out? What's on the lineup for the year? It's pretty wild. Okay, so a podcast network. For people who are like, I understand podcasting, but what is a podcast network? Can you give us a broad definition for it?
Yeah, a network can be, in my broad definition, is just a collection of podcasts of hopefully similarly themed podcasts or similarly focused podcasts. And by focus, I mean like audience type or size and trajectory. But a network can have all sorts of different benefits or detriments depending on who you join and why you join. And ultimately, for me, the idea behind starting the network came to solve the problem that we still face. This is 2018, and we started in 2019. So I got the idea in late 2017 when I started my own podcast. Started talking to people in 2018. We launched 2019. The idea was I started mine because I couldn't find others to listen to. And that wasn't because they weren't there. It was because I couldn't find them. So I solved the problem that we still face today of terrible discoverability.
So true. Okay, so why might someone want to be part of a network? What kind of perks do we typically see when, say, you're a small indie podcaster and you're struggling, but you want to keep doing it, or maybe you want to do it in community, or you want to be, like you said, you can't find other podcasts like yours, but you know there's some out there. What are some of the benefits of joining a podcast network? What kind of things do they help and support with?
When I started looking into this and figuring out like just why people would want to join something that I wanted to create, ultimately, again, it goes back to the discoverability. And we were saying, I pitched this to people as we're building the Netflix of Broadway podcasts. And Broadway is a niche and podcasting is a niche. So we are a niche within a niche. We're niche squared. So we are two niches deep and needed to find a discovery. And then along with that, to answer your question, some additional benefits are we centralized a team for sales funnels. Whether you're a big podcast or a little tiny podcast looking to grow, you still earn something from every episode you put out, because a lot of people now you have to have 10,000 a month to even get in the door or whatever it is, right? And we don't have that restriction. If you're in the network, you monetize, because we are a network where we want everything to be similarly themed. So we want it all to be theater or theater adjacent. And so the listeners that listen to any of our podcasts can pretty much benefit from any of the ads that we are selling across the network, simply because all of the demographics are similar, the similar interests, right? So we've centralized that. Again, given the discoverability, amplification, home on the web, right? So we built this beautiful website at BroadwayPodcastNetwork.com, shameless plug.
Yes.
And you can go there. It's easy to discover the guests within the episodes, the hosts, the podcasts, or the shows, the Broadway shows that they are associated with. So no matter what you search with, you can find what you want. So we're trying to elevate that discoverability, elevate the podcast and solve sort of the discoverability problem. And because all of our podcasts are similarly themed, we do cross promotion within the network all the time. So there's always post rolls running. We take those post roll spots and say, hey, listener, that podcast you just listened to, if you like that one, you're going to like mine. So that kind of thing. So it's cross promotion. We do community events sometimes in the Broadway world, especially. You are dealing with Broadway celebrities and TV film celebrities. So getting access to those people can be tricky.
Yeah.
And for our interview podcast, sometimes they don't know if they're new, or it's such an insular industry. So like I could text some big name people right now, or some of my friends could, or we're just like, hey, so-and-so is really interested in having you on their podcast. What do you think? And they're like, when I'm not accepting awards, sure, I'll come over and do your podcast. And that kind of stuff happens. We're building a community.
Yeah. That's really cool. Do you find, because the turnover rate for podcast hosts is very high, most people don't make it to 25 episodes. Do you find that with a network, it makes it easier to get to that, or to have kind of that support or that community to help push you to keep going? Or do you find that it's similar in the stats?
No, we're very selective actually about who we bring into the network. We have a submission form on the website where you can pitch your podcast if you have one that's existing, or if you have an idea that you want help creating. And we're very selective because, as you know, and as everybody listening who can't make it past 25 knows, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so we can't just keep dumping on more podcasts that are just more and more work. So if you're an existing podcast, we do look for consistency in releasing, quality of the audio. We want good audio. First, the conversation can be great, but if you sound like you're recording in a tin can, it doesn't represent our brand. So got to sound good, got to have good guests. If you come in with strong numbers, that helps. It's not required, but it helps. So there's a lot of people who pitch to us who have been going for a year or two, and we're like, okay, so now you're looking to take it to the next step. You're not fighting success on your own. We can help amplify that. So some of the people we bring in, most of the people we bring in have already made it past that. We know they're serious about it. And then on the other side, if we're starting something fresh, usually it's because we had the idea and we reached out to them and we were like, hey, we're going to help you put this together. We're going to take the heavy lifting on because we feel it's worth it.
Right.
So all they do is show up, lend their voice and their talent. And then the hard part of editing and promoting, which is usually what is the prohibitive factor of making it past 25, we're handling for them as a team.
Interesting. Because it sounds like you're able to also, as the network leader, set yourself up as a thought leader in your space, the niche squared, as you said. Really be able to say, no, I'm Alan, and like, I'm the Broadway podcast guy, right? Like, you're able to say that. Do you find that helps open more doors for you? Just thinking about people who are like, actually, I would love to create a network around therapists that specifically work with, I don't know, women, right? Like a podcast network for those podcasts. Or maybe like I have a hobby podcast where I talk about romance, a romance specific podcast network. If someone's like, actually, I might want to do this, what are some benefits to you specifically that you have found from a thought leadership perspective, or maybe just an access perspective?
It's really funny you mentioned that. I am not going to say the name because I don't know when it's going public, but I have been consulting with somebody else to create exactly what you're just talking about. And I wish I knew when they were going to really launch. I'd love to plug them. I'll send you a voice note.
Yeah.
if we can plug in if we need to. But yeah, exactly that. I've had the idea too of saying, hey, maybe we form a parent company and say, okay, so Broadway is just one of the spokes of the whole hub. And because I love sci-fi, would love to get into, I don't know, let's make a network of alien conspiracy theories.
Right.
I don't know. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or it. But I'd love to find similarly like-minded people and put them together to create and amplify each other, right? And if we can do that and I'll benefit from it in some way, one way or another, then all the better. But yeah, exactly that. From a thought leadership perspective, it's been really interesting because it's opened up doors for me here in the Broadway community too. Aside from podcasting, like I've been brought into the producing world. I'm producing a show in Boston called When Playwrights Kill. Look it up. So, yeah, so I've gotten into the Broadway world of investing. I've gotten in producing. So I'm producing the show. I was investing in shows and just started to be seen as a thought leader and a subject matter expert in this space because I've personally, in my own podcast, have now almost 500 episodes of talking with so many different people about the history of all of your favorite shows.
Right.
And then on top of my own episodes, I've produced probably literally thousands of other episodes, whether directly editing or helping produce from a creative standpoint or putting together talent, whether it's audio dramas, doing recording sessions, just being known as that person who can bring you everything you need. It's opened up tons of doors.
Yeah, that's really cool. I guess like origin story, how did you get to want to focus on Broadway specifically? What's your kind of villain origin story? I guess hero origin story, I should say.
When I was a child, I loved to run outside, play sports, come inside, take apart our 386 computer, the first computer we ever had, all while singing and dancing and acting.
Awesome.
It was the technology behind acting that I really loved and ended up like falling in front of the camera too. So I remember we got our first camcorder, the over the shoulder thing with the VHS you popped in. And we got that. I was probably 4th grade, 5th grade, and I would go out and just start scripting dramas with my neighborhood friends in Florida at that point. And then, anyway, long story short, I grew up and I kept acting, went to NC State, got an engineering degree in computer science while still acting the entire time. With that comp sci degree, became a professional actor for years, then moved to New York in 2007. Writers' strike then, they were striking over DVD residuals. And then I fell back on my degree as a temporary thing, ended up at Google 5 years later as an engineer. I was an engineer at Google for 11 years, while at that time got back into performing because I was in Broadway. I became the first global lead of the Google Talks at Google series. And through that was bringing in Broadway shows to perform at Google as part of the event series, which got me back into Broadway. I left Google. The network is the network. Here I am. Yeah. So it's been a journey.
Wow, that is so cool though. But I love the idea of being able to take something that you loved as a child and then turn it into a career, turn it into something that you can do for a living. I think that it's so powerful and it allows you to have almost a childlike enthusiasm about it, right? Where you're like, actually like what you do. You're enjoying it. And it's not just, oh, I'm just going to do Broadway. Cause I saw a couple shows and I really liked it. And I thought this would be fun to talk about. It's something that's like deeply seated in you. And so that's really cool. And then knowing the technical side of acting as well can help you better interpret or have better conversations around these. So that's really fun. Getting into AI, especially when I know a lot of creatives are fighting it. How do you balance that? Or do you balance it? Or what are you doing with that? Because I know a lot of people have concerns, right? Especially people who are acting, writing, or creating in some way.
I am a proponent of AI when used for good. And I'll say that this is controversial in the Broadway space. There are a lot of people who are just like, it's bad, it's taking away everything, it's hurting the world, etc. And I agree with that. Yeah. But just like cars replaced horse and buggy, calculators replaced abacus, not really, I don't know. Computers replaced typewriters, right? Like we've got technological advances that if you don't embrace, you will be left behind, whether you like it or not. So there's a point where you have to say, all right, I'm going to learn how to use this. And the equivalent now for AI, I believe, is just becoming the best AI prompter you could be. Side note, learn how to prompt AI. That's the best thing you can do for yourself right now. But should you use AI as a designer and say, this is my work? If you say, I used AI to make this, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
If you're passing it off as handmade, yes, that's bad.
Yeah.
If you're using it to impersonate somebody, don't do that. If you're taking someone's likeness or something and in using it without their permission, that's bad. Side note, I just saw last week that Higgsfield, are you familiar with Higgsfield?
No.
Higgsfield.ai. They're making their own original end-to-end completely AI generated sci-fi series. And the first episode is live on their site now as we're speaking. And again, end-to-end, it's a 10-minute sci-fi series that I watched twice because I thought it was that good. And the main character is, they paid a bartender in Brooklyn $1 million to use his likeness as the main character. And this guy has never set foot in an acting studio, never had dreams of being an actor, but now he is the main character in this AI generated thing. And appropriately, he got paid for it. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right? They're using his likeness. People are going to think he is that person. He's getting paid. That's appropriate. So it's a balancing act. And just you go to the extreme. You look at nuclear technology. It can be used for good. It can be used for bad. And people are going to use it for both. So what I say to people who think AI is terrible is learn how to use it. A, you can use it properly. B, you don't get left behind. And C, it can help you solve the problems you're concerned about.
Right.
Because it is so much more efficient. I use it daily to code. I still write code every day. I say I write code. I put in air quotes. I am prompting Claude code every day because I've got these automated, these side projects that I've thrown up, and I've started creating all these things for the Broadway space, productivity tools for myself, and so many other things that just are I can't do long division. Let me get out a calculator. Like, I need an app to get A to B to C. I'll just tell Claude Code what I need to do, design it after an hour, and then let it go on its merry way. And a few hours later, I've got this perfect app I need that makes my life that much more efficient and better.
Yeah. I feel like part of having that duality of you having the engineering software background and having the acting, kind of that duality has helped you navigate this in a way that might be different than, like you said at the beginning of this portion, where some people are just like, nope, it's bad. I don't like it. It's not good. I'm not going to do it. And I found that I've been using it we use it for podcasting and writing show notes and, okay, how can we make this more SEO friendly? Hey, you're the AI tool. How would you want this to be written so that this blog post to be written so it shows up in your searches, right? Things like that, asking it that. But even asking it prompts, hey, I want to create a garden in my backyard. Here's the zone I'm in. This is how much sun this part of my yard gets. This is how much sun this part of my yard gets. I don't want to do a ton of work. I don't want to be out there every day, like trying to do stuff. So what is the most efficient way to do this? And what am I not thinking about? And I like that one prompt of, what am I missing? Or what are some maybe blind spots that I might have of where I could make this more efficient or make it more tailored to my own needs or my own preferences? And then I used it recently, I use Gemini because Google already has all my information. I don't care. Google can continue to have all my information. So I use Gemini, and I had a storybook under Gemini create because my kiddo, he's autistic, and we've been having issues with bumblebees in the backyard where he gets we love bumblebees. We don't want to kill them. We don't want to do anything to them, but he's been very scared of them. And so I was like, can you make a storybook for my 8-year-old to help him get over the fear of bumblebees. And so he created this little story.
Great idea.
and you can pick whether it's like a more feminine voice or a more masculine voice, like the range that they have there. And so I was like, how do you want to listen to this one? Do you want it to be tenor or do you want it to be alto? And then he's able to look at it. But then also I want my kids, because they're going to grow up in a world where AI is most likely going to be doing most of everything. And they need to know about these tools. They need to know how to use them properly. They need to know how to ethically use them. They need to know how to spot if something is AI, right? All of these different things that help them think critically as they get older. So I agree. I do think it is doing bad things to the environment. I do think that people are using it for nefarious purposes. And I do think that it's hurting a lot of creatives in really significant ways. And at the same point, it's not going anywhere. So I do think that we have to figure it out and understand it, like you said, or we will be left behind. What is one prompt that you're really liking and using for your podcast or your podcast network right now that is been really helpful that you can share with us?
I too go full in on Gemini because, and this is another tangent from the technical side, that everybody else relies on either AWS or GCP, Google Cloud Compute, or Azure, whatever. But like Anthropic, everybody else doesn't have their own data centers like Google does. Yes. Google end-to-end makes their own chips, their own servers, their own OS, everything. So I think there's going to be a point where exponentially Google's going to develop much faster and better than everybody else. Anyway, take that for what it's worth. So I'm full in on Gemini. So I've made custom gems. I've made gems, which are custom GPTs, and I asked Gemini to give me the prompt to make a gem.
Same.
So I say, here's what I want to do. Give me the prompt to make a gem. And so it makes the gem, and I've got gems for every little thing that I need to do. I've got an episode description polisher, a writer for, I feed it a transcript, and then it writes all my notes, gives me title options. Like I've trained it to give it what I want, and then I can pick and choose and tweak a little bit. I've got an interview research gem. So when I'm interviewing somebody from my podcast, I literally just put in their name, and it's, okay, here's everything you need in your 3-question format, and here's some other information you might not have thought of. And then I've also got some other gems for when I'm designing products, like when I'm writing things for, my younger son had a state's capital quiz. And so I made an interactive app that he can run on his iPad that literally he can type in and spell and do all these things for state's capital quiz in the groupings that he's learning it in school. So it's literally custom for him. And now his friends are using it too. And like you said too, there's something that I have all of my gems do. And when I'm using Claude code in my terminal, I've written this into Claude's memories and into its instructions to never take anything I say at face value. Don't tell me something I want to hear. Be critical, identify blind spots, suggest things I didn't think about. And from the engineering side, always make sure that everything we're writing has 100% test coverage, because you want to make sure that when you push things out, you don't break other things.
Right.
So that's the engineering side. But yeah, that specifically, like I've got a gem that's for my podcast. I've got other gems for Broadway Podcast Network as a whole for help write newsletters, drafting newsletters. There's always a human polish that needs to happen. And I am also a fractional CTO for another podcast network called Purple Acorn, which is all about human resources and talent acquisition. So I've got a whole automation for them because it's probably 6 or 7 podcasts that I'm helping produce. And I developed a whole system behind the scenes. It's a web application. I drop the finished episodes in, it uploads them, transcribes them, writes titles, descriptions, uploads them into Megaphone, actually does the Megaphone drop. And so all of this is happening behind the scenes with custom code calling out to the Gemini API. So I'm literally interacting with Gemini through code that is being deployed on Railway.
Nice.
So the tools we have now literally didn't exist 12 months ago in their current form. And another 12 months from now, it's only going to get that much better. I will say better because I do believe that.
Yeah.
There will be worse.
Yeah.
We will use it for better.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that's so cool also. And I love that idea of adding in, be critical. What are my blind spots? What am I missing? Don't just take what I say at face value and give me some feedback. And I think that we don't want the tool to be a yes man to us.
Oh, something else too that I put in my gems, especially when I'm dealing with people in notes, is only use verified facts.
Yes.
I explicitly always make sure that's in there. Only use verified facts. Do not guess, and make sure that you double check your work, because it's faster double checking its work than me taking it or me having to go through and do everything. And it was funny because before I did that, I'd be like, "Hey, so you did such and such," and they're like, "Oh, that wasn't me." And I learned real quick I can't do that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Alan, this has been so much fun. If people want to know more about your network or more about some of the other projects that you're working on, where is the best place for them to connect with you, get to know you, maybe stalk you a little bit, all that fun stuff?
Let's see. EvenSealProductions.com is my production company. Broadway Podcast Network.com is the network. I am everywhere you find your podcasts at the Theater Podcast with Alan Seals. That's me. Check out WhenPlaywrightsKill.com. Fingers crossed that it's got a long life after our world premiere in Boston from April 3rd to 18th. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me everywhere. I'm out there. I answered all of it.
Awesome. And we'll have links for all that in the show notes for anyone doing other things as they're listening to us. So you can go ahead and grab those links in the show notes and the YouTube description. Alan, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Appreciate it.